Good day, everyone. Meteor Mark here with Meteor Mark's Weather Edition Winter. Look at this. Yeah, we got a big storm that's going to be pushing up through the Great Lakes of the Northeast, Ohio Valley, with wintry precipitation, rain, and wind. We're going to take a look at all the details along with that, but a bigger storm looks like it's going to take its place. This one on Monday looks like it's actually going to bring wintry precipitation across parts of the Deep South. And could this actually be the first nor'easter, especially for coastal areas, bringing significant snowfall accumulation for Tuesday and Wednesday all the way up through the Northeast? And with the polar vortex later this weekend pushing across all of Canada and then pushing southward into the lower 48 of the U.S. all through next week, could we have Arctic air all the way down to the Gulf Coast and the East Coast? Let's get into it. So we're going to start off here with the GFS precipitation depiction. Our weekend storm, this is going to be winding up across the plains. I'll switch over to the European model momentarily and show you what that's going to occur. But here we go with the GFS. You can see a lot of the heaviest snow across the Midwest. This is 10 a.m. on Friday. You can see this is going to continue across parts of the Midwest and just into the southern Great Lakes there. It's going to be really close for you in Cleveland and Toledo. You're going to be right on the edge, but I think you'll win out. The rainfall, the warmer air will win out as we get through 10 p.m. here on Friday night. Now look at, you get a burst of heavier snow across upstate New York into northern New England, but that quickly changes over to a mixture and then eventually rain. Now you're going to get some lake enhancement behind this. You can see off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario here. You can see, but look at the heavy snow up here across Maine, Quebec, and parts of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. That's where you're going to be getting very heavy snowfall rates here, and that's going to continue as we head throughout the afternoon, and then that pushes out of the area pretty much for Sunday. Now look at our next storm. This is where we have a piece of energy coming down across the Four Corners region. That's going to dive across the southern plains. This is 10 p.m. on Sunday night. So look at this. Wintry precipitation all the way down to Austin, Waco, Dallas, Fort Worth here, Oklahoma City. This is going to be a big problem as we continue to go push this in time here. You can see wintry precipitation all the way down to Austin, Shreveport, Dallas, Waco area. This is 7 a.m. on here the 15th. So we got it right on Monday here. You can see this system's going to be pushing pretty far to the south, tapping into some Gulf moisture here. And look at this. By 1 a.m. on early Tuesday morning, you can see, look at the wintry precipitation wrapping up across parts of Mississippi, northern Alabama, eastern Tennessee here. We're going to be looking for this storm to start wrapping up here pretty quick, 1 p.m. on the 16th. So this is Tuesday afternoon. Look what starts to happen here. The coastal areas getting in on the act of some very heavy snow here into parts of the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast here. So we're going to watch. This could be the GFS pushing a little bit closer to the coastline on this run, but it's still off the coast. This does give coastal areas the chance to potentially get into a mixture situation here. This is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, but you can see some of the heaviest snowfall accumulations on this kind of track would occur just inland. Now, momentarily, I'll show you the Euro. The Euro has been a bit different here than the GFS, but you can see the heaviest snowfall, and I'll show you what those snowfall totals could be looking like here on both major models. But here it is, 10 p.m. on Tuesday night, the 16th. Snowfall continuing here across the Northeast. So snowfall rates continuing to rack up here across parts of the Northeast. We could be looking at some hefty snowfall accumulations. We'll have to watch it here, coastal areas. You're going to be right on the edge. Here it is by 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Look at this. Wrapping up here into Maine, parts of Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, and then blasting on to the Northeast. And as we go out in time, you could see the trend is going to be for these storms to dive south here across the Gulf Coast. And we're going to continue to watch for that blasting southward, which I'll show you momentarily, the temperatures, the Arctic air from the polar vortex. All right, so flipping over to the European model here, this is what we got going on. Here's our weekend storm. It's pushing up through the Mississippi River Valley. This is just a tad south of what the GFS is showing, but it's very close. So you're going to see that snow from Chicago on northward. Chicago could mix out at times on the northern periphery as we get into Friday evening here. Maybe a burst of snow around Cleveland, Pittsburgh before the changeover to a mixture of rain and snow. And then that low just bombs up here into parts of the Northeast. Now let's skip ahead here. This is our piece of energy diving southward across Texas. As you can see on the European model, it is actually a bit further south here. Look at this. This is by 7 a.m. on the 15th. Monday morning. This pushes some moisture here towards Florida. Look at this. essentially what we have going on here is this big high pressure system suppressed this system pretty far to the south here on the European model. It is actually looking, what's going to happen here? Well, this run of the European model completely, wow, takes us out to sea. So what the European model is doing is blasting an unusually amount of cold air, and essentially kind of what was happening last winter pushes us completely out. So I just wanted to show you the previous European run here. So this kind of puts things in perspective. Here we are right around the 15th into the 16th. This was closer to the coastline. So you can expect bouncing around of these models. This put parts of the Mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, into southern New England into some pretty heavy snow here. So this is still a possibility. The European is keeping weaker and further south eastward here. But you're going to bounce around on these models from model run to model run. That's why I wanted to show you this. All right, so I want to show you the GFS snowfall map, and then we'll compare it to the European models here. Look at this. So yeah, our first shot of snow here is across the Midwest, parts of the Great Lakes, looking at solid 6 to 12, maybe 12 to 18, right around Chicago, westward towards Des Moines here. Definitely something to keep an eye on across southeastern Canada as well. You're going to be getting a lot of snowfall up here across southern Ontario and Quebec, clipping northern New England as well. Those snowbelt areas east of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario really do start to pile up as well. I'll show you those momentarily. Here's our southern system. So yeah, look at that. 6 to 12 inches across eastern part of Oklahoma, Arkansas, stretching across Tennessee, all the way up through the Ohio Valley. Yeah, this really is going further to the west. It's even given places like Cleveland, Erie, all the way to Harrisburg, Binghamton. That is a lot of snow. GFS being very generous just inland here. Look at this. That's associated most of that with our potential nor'easter. Yeah, it does get some 6-inch totals here to the coast. Let's take a zoom in here. Now, here's the European model. This is a lot different here as we go through Monday and Tuesday, but this, just take the weekend here. You can see, yeah, east of the lakes, northeast of Cleveland, especially Dunkirk area, Buffalo. Yeah, you could get some heavy lake effect accumulation. Here is that snowfall, Chicago area over to Des Moines, eastern Nebraska, definitely piling up the snow. But here's our southern system, almost non-existent here on the European model. Now, if I go back a model here on the European, I can show you, here it is. You can see there is that snowfall I was showing you earlier in the day. Look at that, 6 to 12 inches across parts of Washington, D.C., all the way up to Boston here, New Jersey, Long Island. All right, so here it is, that previous European model. Yeah, if, you know, there's going to be a lot of bouncing around. I haven't completely wrote this solution off, especially since it's more closer to the GFS. Of course, the GFS is much further inland, but beside the point here, yeah, this would produce a lot of snow here, 6 to 8 inches on average across coastal areas. Now, if we take a look at the latest European model, look at that. Yeah, they're not getting very much there. Nothing along the coastline. Now, look at this. Here in the snowballed areas, Cleveland looks like about 1 inch, but look at this. Towards Buffalo and southwest winds, Watertown area, almost 3 feet in some of these areas. That's crazy. Now, if we get over to the GFS here, take a look at this. So here's our weekend, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches across northern Ohio. Look at northwestern Pennsylvania here. This is a little bit curious. This is on the northern fringe of it. I've had some of my viewers here in north central Pennsylvania say these mountaintops are usually highly underrated with these snowfall, especially these front-end snowfall totals here. So it's not out of the question we could see advisory and low-end warning criteria here along in north and south of Route 6 here. It's going to be interesting. Maybe a very snowy Saturday morning into early afternoon here across north central, northwest Pennsylvania. That's pretty interesting. The GFS is going much colder with this, even 2 inches here towards Binghamton over the weekend. We'll have to keep an eye on this, but look at this. Wow. Yeah. If the GFS does end up being right, it does still look like it paints, 6, 8 inches here along the coast with, very almost none here in Cape Cod, extreme southern New Jersey. But look at this. Yeah, this is a lot of snow in here. Definitely 1 to 2 feet in many of these areas if this track does hold true. So I wanted to show you quick up here into the northeast. There's those streamers continuing Thursday night into Friday morning. Those will weaken as, high pressure builds in and our next system. So let's switch over here. Yeah, I just wanted to show you are going to get that very heavy snow on the northern side of the system, but you can see where it's going to lie. A brief period onto the northern part of the onset here. Low pressure winding up across northern Indiana here. And look at that, across northern Illinois up to Michigan here in Wisconsin. That's where you're going to see the heavier snowfall totals, even into northern New England. Now, severe weather. So the ugly side of this storm going on into Friday and into Friday night, early Saturday, is the severe weather. There's the enhanced risk here across parts of northern Alabama and Mississippi here. That's going to be a major issue to deal with here, and that's going to be spreading across much of the deep south. I just wanted to throw that out there. You're going to be dealing with a lot of severe weather here on the southern portion of this system. And here's that tornado risk. Definitely got to keep an eye to the sky, especially Friday afternoon and Friday evening here. This is what we're going to be looking at. So as we continue to look at this, so it's 3 a.m. on Friday morning, early Friday morning. Look what's going to be happening here. This is a lot of heavy rain up here in the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys, but look what's happening southward here. This is the quadrants you're going to have to watch going on, especially into early to mid part of Friday here. And look at this. As we continue in time, this pushes to the east by 11 a.m. Friday. Look at this. This is booking it to the east. I know this doesn't look terribly impressive as a squall line, but a lot of these individual cells could be supercells here, which could put out some very damaging wind, large hail, and those isolated tornado potential as we continue throughout the day on Friday. Here's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Yeah, getting through North Carolina and then stretching here across South Florida. So there's a lot of wind and dynamics to work with this system. And look it up here into the Northeast for Friday night. Yeah, that's a lot of precipitation moving up here. All right, so let's take a look at those wind gusts as we go throughout. Yeah, there it is, Friday. This is still a bit of a concern, although last storm, we did not get, widespread winds. They were more localized, so it's all dependent on convection, how much heavy rain you have in the area, but still, I want to put this out here. You could see 40, 50 mile per hour gusts in some of these areas, so definitely want to keep an eye out here as we go through early Saturday morning here into Saturday afternoon. There, that wind shifts to the northwest there. Some of these areas that are getting snow in the Great Lakes could see almost blizzard-like conditions with that, but those winds continue into Sunday as well, gusty 20 to 30 miles per hour before lifting out. So let's take a look at total liquid equivalent precipitation. Now, this takes it just liquid. You can see there's going to be a lot of heavy rain and thunderstorms here across parts of the Mississippi Valley. Another area of heavy rain here along the I-95 corridor region, and then other areas here could see upwards of a half to 3/4 of an inch here into the darker blues. And there you have it. There's the European model. And here we go. We take a look at the GFS, liquid equivalent precipitation. Look at that. That's quite a bit of heavy rain. And even some on the northern fringes here, this is heavy snow. Now look at this as we continue to pile up on top of our next system. Mostly coming out as all snow here on the GFS Tuesday and Wednesday. So this is looking like a lot of moisture here to work with. So taking a look at the upper air pattern here, you can see what the European model is doing as we head on into the weekend. We're bringing that big trough to the east. This is actually a really big trough. This is the one that's going to push this polar vortex to the south, because look at this blocking up here. This could be the key to pushing this big snowstorm north along the U.S. East Coast. We'll have to keep an eye on this. Here is the European model, keeping it a little more progressive on this run, though. You can see, and then another big trough kicking in for Saturday the 20th here. So we got a lot of chances that we may pile up some pretty decent snowstorms here going through the third week of January. All right, so our polar vortex watch here. Look at this as we go through the 13th into the 14th. This is this weekend. So essentially what the European model is doing is pushing the colder air further southward here, kind of losing our low off the coast. I think it's a possibility the European may be a little bit too aggressive with this cold air, but look at this. I mean, this is possible. Look how far to the south here some of this Arctic air intrusion is getting. This is pretty cold here as we get towards the 16th into the 17th. Let's take a look at the trends here. So it kind of lifts out a little bit to the north the following weekend, and then we get another plunge towards the 20th. and into the 21st across the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. And Derek Rentschler from Lebanon County, Pennsylvania here, taking a look on January 10th here, Swatara Creek flooding in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania with this last storm that pretty much melted all the snow and also caused some heavy rain across the area. This was the rule across southern, central, and eastern Pennsylvania, parts of New York, New Jersey, and New England. This is unfortunately the leftovers of what is from this storm, and we got another storm moving in just in time for the weekend, so this is not good news. Great captures there, Derek. And Robert Stone here, his daughter Jewel provided these to him in the Dunkirk and surrounding areas. You can see quite a mess with this storm. Quite a bit of, flooding and wind damage as well. And look at this. There you can see the winds just blasting these trees with 50, even 60 mile per hour gusts. This has been the rule across much of the Northeast as we head through, the next 24 to 48 hours. Another carbon copy this weekend of this. And look at there. Look at the shingles slowly lifting up there. That is not great news. Those are some great captures there. Lots of wind damage to be had across western New York. Lots of trees and limbs down. And here's John from Islip, New York. Take a look at this. He's got some flooding, flash flooding, coastal flooding across his area of Islip, New York, January 9th and 10th. Looking pretty nasty there, especially in the nighttime when you get some of that ponding and flooding of the roads. Stay safe there, John. Nice capture. All right, if we take a look at Canada's winter outlook here, look at this. What we got going on here towards the 13th and the 14th, this is your weekend storm, pushing a lot of heavy snow across southern Ontario, much of Quebec, New Brunswick initially, Nova Scotia, changing over to rainfall, though, eventually here. And that pushes all the way up. We're looking at a low-pressure system across the southwestern part of Canada here, pushing in from the Pacific Northwest part of the country here into southwestern Canada. And look at this as we go through time, 21st. Look at this as we go through mid to late January. It's going to be almost too cold to get any of these systems going, with the exception for a few of these East Coast storms that ride up and clip parts of southern Quebec here towards the 25th and 26th. Look at this. We are looking quiet here, but extremely cold across Canada. All right, so let's take a look at the tropics here. I don't want to leave the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, Central America, all you Caribbean islands out. As we cruise on through the weekend here, this is nice. We don't have too much to talk about. There's a few showers east of Jamaica here. Here's the tail end of a front near the Yucatan and the western tip of Cuba, and a little bit of a wave coming through the Lesser Antilles near Trinidad and Tobago. But, there's not too much happening here. This is great news. There is a front that kind of pushes its way into this region of the Western Caribbean, but it's pretty much stalled out at this point. It does try to make it towards the Cayman Islands towards the 17th, right around 7 p.m. here. If we just zoom in just a little, give you a better vantage point. But you know what? As we continue to go out in time here, this is the quiet time of year. You get some showers here towards Jamaica, towards January 20th, towards Honduras and Belize as well. And then look at this. This frontal boundary is making it all the way down into Jamaica and Honduras here. So this will actually bring some lower humidity, especially across the Bahamas here. Looking good. So here we go for the Caribbean precipitation. Look at that. Jamaica, Cayman Islands, you get about 10 millimeters or less through the weekend. And then look at that. We start to get some moisture there across the northern Bahamas, upwards of 90 to 100 millimeters, up towards 3.5 inches potentially as we get towards the following weekend. But look at that. We go through the whole week next week. We get a little bit here, those little chances of showers, especially the east coast of Nicaragua and Honduras here, east coast of Belize, and the east coast of the Yucatan. But not too much happening here. Even in the southern Bahamas, not too much. All right, so if we get into the eastern Caribbean here and parts of the Atlantic, you can see it's not until Saturday, Sunday, and Monday towards Trinidad and Tobago here you start to get upwards of 40 to 50 millimeters, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Even parts of the northern and lesser Antilles, east coast, and areas of Puerto Rico here as well as we continue through. Look at that, all next week. So yeah, a lot of this falling over a longer period of time. You're not going to look at too much in the way of heavy precipitation. And don't go anywhere. I just have more weather here in just a moment. Check out my affiliate here, these awesome maps. Have a look at this.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
And here we go, temperature-wise here across the northern plains. You can see where the polar vortex is blasting below zero here as we head on to Friday. Look at the surge of 40s all the way into the Ohio Valley. That's crazy. Look at the big story is going to be this cold air blasting south. Look at, you're going to be below zero all the way down to Nebraska here as we head on to Saturday. Look at Sunday. Yeah, the bottom is literally falling out. Look at even parts of Texas here falling below freezing. Look at this. You're barely holding on here in the southeast. Watch what happens here into Monday. This is insane. Yeah, look at this. So the freezing line is all the way down into parts of the deep south here. You're really sub-freezing here in the Ohio Valley into the Midwest here. Even 20s here in upstate New York, northern New England, and Pennsylvania. That's crazy. This is cold if you've seen it all winter long so far. And look at that. That just consolidates here across parts of the Northeast, Midwest. And then as we get towards Wednesday next week, the 17th, look at that. It's looking pretty cold here, continuing, but we are warming back up here in Texas. Extended outlook from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Take a look at this. We go all the way through Friday into the weekend. We got that rain developing, especially Friday night into Saturday. We might have upwards of 3/4 close to 1 inch of rain, maybe briefly mixing with snow at the onset and at the end as well. However, I think Sunday we'll see some snow showers, much colder. Look at this, heading on into the new week, Monday and Tuesday, much colder, highs dropping down into the mid-20s. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MediaMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.